A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. Tens of thousands of demonstrators took to the streets across Israel on Tuesday in a powerful display of dissent against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's ongoing military campaign in Gaza City. Dubbed a day of disruption, the protests aimed to compel the Israeli leader to reconsider his plans for a ground offensive and to engage in ceasefire negotiations that could lead to the release of hostages held by Hamas. In Tel Aviv, the largest rally was led by relatives of hostages, who have been vocal about their frustrations with the government's handling of the situation. Protesters blocked major highways and gathered outside key government buildings, including the Prime Minister's office in Jerusalem, as they sought to convey their urgent message. The protests came amid reports that Israel's military is accelerating preparations for a ground offensive in Gaza City, despite ongoing international calls for a ceasefire and warnings about the humanitarian crisis unfolding in the region. Netanyahu has faced criticism for his perceived indifference to the plight of Palestinians, many of whom are suffering from dire conditions, including famine. The Prime Minister remains steadfast in his belief that military action is essential for Israel's security and the release of hostages. However, the public sentiment appears to be shifting, with a significant portion of Israelis supporting a ceasefire to bring all remaining hostages home. Polling data reveals that nearly three-quarters of Jewish Israelis agree with the notion that the government has a responsibility to negotiate a deal that prioritizes the safety of hostages, even as many still hold the belief that there are no innocents in Gaza. This complex dichotomy of opinions is reflected in the protests, where voices calling for an end to the war and humanitarian aid for Palestinians are met with resistance from factions within Netanyahu's coalition government. Critics accuse the Prime Minister of prolonging the conflict for political gain, arguing that he has sacrificed civilian lives for the sake of his leadership. "We could have ended the war a year ago and brought all the hostages and soldiers home," said Aime Zangacher, whose son remains in Gaza. But the Prime Minister chose to sacrifice civilians for the sake of his rule. The protests, which included demonstrations at Ben Gurion Airport and major highways leading to Haifa, were marked by emotional appeals from families of hostages who feel abandoned by their government. Ruby Chun, father of a soldier whose remains are believed to be in Gaza, urged officials to return to the negotiation table, emphasizing the urgency of striking a deal that could secure the release of captives. As the Israeli military continues its bombardment of Gaza, the humanitarian situation grows increasingly dire, with aid agencies warning of a catastrophic famine. The latest reports indicate that over 62,000 Palestinians have been killed since the beginning of the conflict, and half of Gaza's population is now displaced, seeking refuge in crowded coastal areas and makeshift camps. Amidst the protests, a new poll revealed that a significant majority of Jewish Israelis believe that there are no innocents in Gaza, highlighting a troubling acceptance of the violence and its devastating impact on civilians. As international mediators await Israel's response to a ceasefire proposal, the pressure mounts on Netanyahu to balance military objectives with the urgent need for humanitarian considerations and the voices of his constituents demanding peace. The coming days will be crucial as the government navigates the complex realities of war, public opinion, and the pressing need for a resolution that addresses both security concerns and humanitarian needs. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.